All right, welcome back to the CashPT Lunch Hour podcast. This is Aaron LeBauer, your host, and today my special guest is F. Scott Feil, and F. Scott's from Waco, Texas, where he has a CashPT side hustle. So, Scott, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This has been a long time coming, so I'm glad to finally sit and chat with you.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So, um, let's give everyone a little background on you. You went to Wake Forest, right around the corner from me, right? Was that undergrad?
Yeah, I did my undergrad at Wake Forest. I was actually an English major, which in the long run actually kind of helped me, I think, get into PT school because I was an oddball. It was all exercise science majors and bio majors, and here's this English major trying to get into PT school. And I did have to take a full year of prerequisite classes after I graduated. So I went to
Mm-hmm.
UNC Greensboro actually to complete those prereqs while I still lived in Winston-Salem there. And
Okay.
then I got into East Carolina University when it was still a master's program. So I went to ECU for grad school, but then they offered us a transitional doctorate in that second year. We were the first class they offered that to, and it was only good for 2 years, and then they shut it down, and it became a full-on 3-year doctoral program after that. So I started my doctorate at East Carolina University, but life kind of got in the way. My dad got sick; he ended up passing away, and I wasn't able to complete it in time, and the window of opportunity closed there. So I then had to go to St. Augustine, predominantly online, to get my transitional doctorate finished. And then at that point, I continued on to get my educational doctorate through St. Augustine as well. And I'm just wrapping that up right now, and I defend my thesis this month. So it's been
Wow.
a long, crazy journey, but it's been good overall. I can't complain.
Oh, that's great. So, um, you're not from North Carolina. You're from where are you from
Yeah,
originally?
no, I'm from New York originally, born and raised on Long Island. Big Mets fan, big New York Giants fan, Knicks fan, Islanders fan. All my teams are still up north,
Yeah,
but it's the South has been good to me, and I just don't foresee myself going back.
that's good. Well, Don Mattingly played for Greensboro,
Yes, that's right.
but was
The
that he
Greensboro
was?
Bats.
Yep, Greensboro. Yeah, at the time it was the Greensboro Hornets because that was like the '70s, I think, when
Yeah.
'70s when he played here.
Yep. Yep. When I was there, it was the Bats, and I think they transitioned
Yep,
even one more time to the
yep, the Grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever get a chance to go to the Durham Bulls Stadium when
Yes.
you were here?
Yes.
The
When
old
I was at
stadium.
When I was at East Carolina University, we went to a handful of Durham Bulls games, and man, I love minor league baseball. So
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. That was a great stadium. So tell us, you graduated PT school, and then did you go to work somewhere else? What was the journey between PT school and owning a Cash PT side
yeah,
hustle?
yeah. So it was, like I said, much like my academic career, it was a long and winding journey to get here. Even after my dad passed away, and I was working as a tech in Charleston, South Carolina at the time, living with my mom and just trying to help her out a little bit and pass my board exam. And I worked at the same hospital where my dad passed away, so I had to walk past the room where he passed every day on the way to work, and
Wow.
it got brutal to me, man. I got burnt out before I even you know got into PT world. I mean, I wasn't even a PT yet. I was a tech still, and it was already wearing on me. I couldn't take it much more. So as soon as I passed my board exams, I traveled for a year. I got out, and I started in a little podunk town in Texas, worked at a skilled nursing facility on a travel contract. Then I went to Honolulu, Hawaii for 5 months and did a home health contract. And then I ended up in Asheville, North Carolina for a home health contract before finally settling down in Charlotte,
Hmm.
North Carolina. And I worked in a hospital system there for a handful of years. Got an offer I couldn't refuse down in Savannah, Georgia at an outpatient clinic. Um, Things weren't really in line with my goals and my aspirations once I got down there. So I moved into workman's comp at a company in Atlanta, Georgia. And then from there, that company had an opening in Waco, Texas. And when we were pregnant with number two, my wife wanted to get closer to her home of Katy, Texas, out by Houston there. And so we moved to Waco, and we've been here ever since. We've been here about 3 years now. Um, no, it's a tiny little town, nice little place to raise a family. I think we could potentially be here for quite some time. So
Hmm.
it seemed like a good time to kind of set my roots and kind of open up my own thing, and just see where I could take that.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And so we met the first time, was it about almost 2.5, 3 years ago at CSM, and you came up and you handed me like a bats helmet and all this stuff.
Yep.
Was that about the same time you moved?
It was actually because I was in Texas for that CSM. It was in San Antonio, and I was
Right.
only about 2 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive or whatever. So yeah, we had just recently moved to Texas that year.
Okay, awesome. So when did you get started when did you start your practice, your cash practice, and what drove you to decide that you wanted to do that?
Yeah. So at the time, the company I was working for was 100% workman's comp, and paid well. It was a good job. It was essentially outpatient. But the first year I was with them, their medical coverage for a family of four was about $1,200 a month,
Hmm.
and I was the only one. I'm the only one working. My wife's a stay-at-home mom, and we got two kids, so I have to have coverage for them, right? Well, my wife's a type 1 diabetic, so there in order to get her supplies covered, we had to have medical coverage. Between the pods and the continuous glucose monitor and the insulin, the price is just exorbitant on a monthly basis. So essentially, I had to find somewhere that had a pretty decent medical coverage. And this company started out okay. It was $1,200 a month for a family of four. The next year, they switched from Aetna to Cigna, I believe, and the premium went up to $1,500 a month for a family of four. The third year, it finally jumped up to $1,800
Wow.
per month for a family of four to have medical coverage. And it just got to the point where I was actually making less and less and less each year because of the premium for healthcare coverage. So I was like, all right, well, if that's the way it's going to be, and we're going to stay here in this job in this current position, then I need to figure out another stream of income to make up that difference.
Hmm.
And I was like, we've been here long enough. I've got some connections. I've got some, local friends and family now that I can kind of rely on a little bit. Let's see if, I can't get something off the ground and just start a cash pay side hustle. So I started talking with David Bailiff, also a Wake Forest Demon Deacon, about MobilePT and
Go
how,
Duke.
yeah, right. About how he has, kind of grown his mobile business.
Right.
Uh, I just started, talking with him as a mentor and really, picking at his brain on a constant basis. And about 2.5 years ago, I just took the plunge and said, all right, I'm going to do MobilePT. I'm going to do cash pay only. And, it'll just grow to whatever it is. It's a side hustle. I have no, worries. It doesn't have to grow. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to support us. It just has to be a little bit of a side stream and a side income that can kind of supplement the
Hmm.
difference we're losing in healthcare premium.
Right, right. So let me ask you this. So your premium that you're paying, that's like 1,800, that's within a humongous company, right?
Pretty big. I mean, the
And is it
company,
is the amount based on your pre-existing conditions, or is it just the same for everyone your age?
it's the same for everyone. There's two options. You can go with the gold coverage, and then that's 1,800 a month for a
Mm-hmm.
family of four. It's obviously a little less for an individual, but it's 1,800 a month for a family of four. Or you go with the HSA, a health savings account, and you put in however much you think you'll need
Right.
for your medical coverage for the year. And the company that I was working for when this all started, uh, over 50 clinics across 4 or 5 states. Pretty big company. And every year they quote unquote shopped around for the best premium and the best coverage they could find. And I find it hard to believe that 1,800 a month was the best they could come up with, but
Wow.
that's what it was. So,
Right.
I wasn't going to sit around and wait for them to figure it out. I figured I'd do it myself.
Yeah. Have you shopped around like for individual insurance to price that out?
Yeah, because that was the other option, right? Well, all right, I just go out on my own and start my own thing, and I purchase insurance for us, independently. And we ran into a lot of resistance because of my wife's, again, pre-existing condition of type
Mm-hmm.
1 diabetes, and she's unemployed for several years, right? Because she's a stay-at-home mom. So those two combinations, it was really hard to find someone that would cover her under my plan.
Really?
So
Wow. So like they were even saying like we're not even going to cover her. It wasn't even like it'll be $5,000 a month. It was like we're just not even going to cover her.
right, right. Yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
hard to even find coverage. And again, I gladly would have paid it monthly if
Hmm.
it was less than 1,800 a month. Well, then it would have made sense for me just to buy my own. but we
Right.
couldn't even find somebody who would allow her. And again, their option often that we ran into was, well, you and the kids can buy your own premium, and then she can go under Obamacare or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Well, again, the problem there is what's covered under Obamacare and what's not. And again, pre-existing conditions were an issue. Plus, the type of insulin that was covered oftentimes was not necessarily up to par.
Right.
So, for anyone who knows about type 1 diabetes and stuff, your body reacts very differently to different types of insulin. So, that was even another problem we ran into. The change in healthcare coverage from Aetna to Cigna to Blue Cross Blue Shield went from Humalog to Novolog to Humalog, which it takes her body months to get used to the different type of insulin. So it was a mess every year we had to switch over. And I tried to explain that to the company, and they just, nothing they could do about it. So
Right. Well, they don't really care.
no,
I mean, they don't,
no,
you
never.
know. It's interesting because on our end, I've been buying our own insurance privately for years, and it's always been more expensive than we could have had if it was, through if I was working somewhere else. But in last year, let's see, this past year was the first year that we purchased insurance through our business because I have some employees. But prior to that, it was $1,800 a year for a family of 4 healthy people. The year before it was $1,500, and the year before it was $1,300. And what was happening was this year for 2018, it was going to go up to 21 something for a family of 4. And it's just like, so we bought it through our company. I now have to offer it to employees, but it brought our premium down to 1,300, which is way more manageable.
Yeah,
But then again, I'm now obligated to, do it for my employees, but if they're awesome, that helps. But it's like, even for them, it's more expensive for them to buy it through us at 50% rate than it is for them to go get it themselves individually,
yep.
which is, it's kind of crazy. It's just, the whole thing is a mess,
It is. And
you
I
know?
don't see it getting better in the future. It keeps getting worse. So,
Yeah. So the game is right now for you, are you doing home health or still this workman's comp type of contract thing?
no, I actually found a home health company that needed help badly in Waco, and their premium was slightly less. It was about 1,700 a month, but the caveat was the deductible. When we were
Mhm.
on the other premium, our deductible was like 3,000 individual, 5,000 family. So we'd never meet that,
Right.
until the end of the year. And at that point, it was maybe 1 month of getting her diabetic supplies for, a
Hmm.
reasonable price. But this new deductible we have is 250 individual and 500 family. So we'll meet that like in the first month if we just do a couple of checkups and we're good to
Wow.
go. And then her diabetic supplies are covered at 100%.
Oh,
So
wow.
so at that point, it just pays to work for that company. That's basically what I did. I shopped for the best possible insurance and the best possible premium that I could find that would make the most sense for our family.
Yeah. Well, at that rate, I mean, that's great because like I'm sitting here talking about, yeah, it's 1,500 or 13 something, but we've got a like 5,000 or $7,000 individual deductible. And then, I'm looking at it as like, I'm limiting my family's exposure to risk if one of us is in the hospital for 3 or 4 days or more.
Yeah. And I mean, essentially at that rate, you're a cash pay individual anyway.
Right.
So
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'll ask a lot of times, well, is there a cash rate? They're like, no. I'm like, if I pay in full today, like, you won't give me a better deal? You gotta be
it's
kidding me.
nuts. Yeah, it's nuts.
So, tell me more about like, how does your day go? So you're doing home health,
Mhm.
for someone else, and then you've got your like kind of like a travel home health mobile business on the side. Are you kind of mixing your own patients in with that? And when are you seeing your patients? And can you tell
Yeah,
us how that
it's
works?
actually it's afforded me great flexibility. What I used to have to do because the workman's comp gig was 9 to 6 was see patients either really early in the morning or late at night or on weekends. Now that I do home health, I set my own schedule, and then I can kind of sprinkle in some of my patients here and there, as I see fit. Um, the cool thing is, the home health population is predominantly geriatric, homebound, post-operative, whereas my patients are young, fit, you know, just completely different populations. So I'm able to kind of keep them very separate, you know, and no blurring the lines at all. So it's been really nice transition for me.
Mm-hmm. So are you, like, how many people a week are you seeing, like, for, the job, and then for the side hustle? How's that working out?
For the job, I probably see 25 to 30 patients a week. I can choose how many to see. You know, there's incentive to hit certain numbers, you know, bonuses and stuff like that. So I try to, you know, hit the bare minimum on the bonuses just
Mm-hmm.
because that's nice to have. But and then for my side hustle, I generally see anywhere from 6 to 10 patients a week. Um, you know, and that keeps me pretty busy. You know, I still kind of work an 8 to 5 ish, 8 to 6 schedule at this point. You know, I try to schedule my patients on days where I know I'm going to be done earlier with the home health type stuff. Um, and then realistically, you know, if I get too much more busy than that, it's going to start adding hours to my week, and I don't know that I want to do that right now.
Right, right. Is there like ideal number or amount of time that you want to spend working, and the rest, like other things you're doing, like with your kids, or, I know you got podcast yourself and everything.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like the 8 to 10 hours a week. You know, it kind of adds an extra day, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, my work week. But if I'm able to kind of interweave it and, you know, mix it in with my regular, um, you know, home health patients, it really doesn't feel like that extra day worked in. It's just, you know, maybe an extra hour or two each day. I start a little earlier, come home a little later at the end of it. But you know, 8 to 10 is really my Goldilocks zone, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. um, and it's like I said, it's such a drastically different population, and it's my business the way I want to run it, and so I'm exactly where I want to be with that. Like I feel like, you know, people can do a cash pay side hustle and be perfectly fine with keeping it a side hustle. It doesn't have to be, you know, the end all be all. Everybody's situation is very different. Mine obviously is drastically different as to why I ended up doing it that way and keeping
Mm-hmm.
it a side hustle. But it can be done, and it can be done successfully. For me, my patients, the cash pay patients, are almost like cathartic. You know, it's a way for me to just get out, interact with people, communicate with people in a way that I want to, that is going to help them get better and get the best results. And realistically, you know, it keeps my skills sharp too. So I'm loving it right now. You know, I do have a ton of other things going on too, but I kind of try to keep them in separate silos so that I can time, you know, the amount of time and energy that needs to go into all those projects.
Yeah. So what are you doing to, like, kind of advertise, market, create a business that around this that is keeping you busy with the cash pay side?
Yeah. So when I first started, there were only 3 CrossFit gyms in Waco. That
Mm-hmm.
was it. It was very simple. I just went to all 3. I said, hey, you know, would you like me to do quarterly injury prevention courses for you, like a 30-minute presentation on neck, then one on back, one on shoulder, one on leg? You know, would you be interested in that? And, you know, basically it kind of helps keep your paying members as paying members and keeps them coming to the CrossFit box instead of, you know, going out and getting hurt and then not paying for a little while till they feel like they're better and can come back. And all the owners were receptive to that. I do, you know, like I said, quarterly injury prevention courses, and then you know, from there it kind of spread word of mouth wise. And just this year, this is the first year that I've finally started putting a little bit of Facebook dollars behind some ads locally here, and that's kind of helped some patients trickle in as well. Um, and then I've started working on a third very specific niche, and that is video gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've just gotten really into the esports world lately, and just, you know, watching these hand injuries and wrist injuries, elbow injuries, postural injuries, and you know, I've really started trying to market to video gamers and hand injuries in particular. And then on top of that, you know, if they can't get to me locally here, I'm starting to try to branch that into a telehealth option as well.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's great. Um, what would you say, like, because I know, like, I see a lot of this in my group. Like where people are saying, oh, well, I'm just starting something on the side. I'm just going to see a couple people a week. Do I really need to do X, Y, and Z? Like, have a payment agreement, have a, be compliant and, do all these things. Even if it's just for a couple people a week, like one, I mean, like how did you see that? And like when you were building, like how did you justify, okay, I got to actually spend some money to create my business, to get the things that you needed started so that everything's, like on the up and up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you still got to take it seriously. I mean, you got to take it like a business. You have to, pay attention to all the details, dot the I's, cross the T's. I was very fortunate when I was starting out. I bootstrapped it. I took my time, did my due diligence. I had a buddy of mine who was a lawyer. He went to college with me, and he got me started. He got me, all the articles of incorporation and the paperwork that I needed to start the business. Again, I had a lot of mentorship, which was great. David Bailiff of the MobilePT League has been a huge wealth of knowledge for me. He and I actually collaborated on a course on how to finally start your own MobilePT practice, if that's something you were interested in, because, I wanted to take my educational doctorate and put it to good use. And David, like I said, was just a mentor to me. So he had a bunch of knowledge on how to do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I kind of take it from, like I said, the side hustle aspect of things. But, you really do need to take it seriously and run it as a business. So, I mean, I did everything that I needed to do in order to, feel like I was covered as a corporation and a business. I still had my individual malpractice insurance. I had, I used G Suite for my notes and documentation. I basically run it as it were, a full-time business. But it's just, a little bit smaller. It's almost like a micro practice. And like I said, I'm okay with that, because that's about all I can handle, and it's keeping me sane. So
cool. Is there anything that you're doing differently or that you would do differently if you had like a physical location and patients came to you?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it, because my whole goal was to keep the overhead low.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with the mobile practice, I literally found a massage table on Craigslist, for dirt cheap. I had a bunch of equipment and stuff just from years of practicing here and there and picking up little things here and there. So I just threw all that stuff in my trunk. And, I think the whole benefit of mobile PT is that you're giving people time, right? You're giving them convenience. You're coming to them where they need to be when they need to be seen. So, for me, the idea of a brick and mortar type place has never really even crossed my mind, because I'm out driving most of the day anyway, doing some home health stuff. So, this just incorporates them into my route, and I just kind of, fit them in where they need to be seen. So,
Yeah.
I can't say that I would personally even think of brick and mortar right now, because it's just not, A, it's not really in my budget, and B, it's just not something that I'm too interested in right now.
Right. I think like one of the questions that I hear from people is that, oh, well, I'm doing mobile and you're doing brick and mortar, like they're completely different. But it's pretty much all the same. It's just there's a one, you've got a physical location where people come to you, and the other one you go to people, and that's pretty much everything else is the same stuff, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's still a physical therapy business. That's all it is. It's just the location that you provide your services. That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. What I think there was another question that hit my head and just disappeared. What would you say to somebody if they're interested in starting a mobile practice? What's like the thing that they need to be aware of or know about, that they might, that a lot of people miss or make mistakes?
Yeah. Well, the first step, like I said, is join the Facebook group, that Mobile PT League that David Bailiff started, because that every question you can ever imagine comes up there, and the group is so supportive and so helpful for, everything that you need to know mobile PT related. But as far as mistakes and things like that, I mean, it's not rocket science. I think people worry so much about the intricacies and the details and the minutia. And, once you've got everything set up, just go be a PT, just go treat people, make them better, listen to them, communicate. I think the biggest mistake people make is they get too caught up in the details, and it, it's that paralysis by analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Where, they're so worried to start. Just jump in and do it. Like, especially as a side hustle, you've got nothing but time and patience to just grow that thing as much or as little as you want. Like, you have a fallback net, you have a safety net. What is the issue? Why worry?
Right.
There literally is no failure unless you stop trying. Right. Everything else on the way is just a learning process. At that point, it's just a learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't read. Okay. Here, that's great. And that's awesome. I want your thoughts on this. I saw a comment the other day, and I've heard these comments over the years. It kind of goes like, well, why would anyone pay cash for physical therapy? Like, if you paid cash for physical therapy, like, that would be stupid because you can get it down the street for a copay, or which is kind of like the comment I heard the other day, or, oh, it's unethical to charge more for physical therapy when someone, has great insurance and they could get the same thing. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to value yourself and your services at whatever you feel the value is, right? I personally, with the mobile business, I feel like I'm providing a service and an opportunity for these people to get physical therapy where they may not have been able to. If they couldn't leave the house all day because they got 3 kids running around and it's just too much for them, well, I can come to you. I can, help provide you that convenience, plus the one-on-one care, trying to take things to the next level, right? Provide the Disney experience of physical therapy,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I feel like I'm providing. So I feel like I can charge more for that if I want, right? But from a bigger standpoint, I mean, at the end of the day, if I have an issue or a problem and I need somebody to come in and consult and give me the answer because they have the knowledge and the skills to solve my problem, well, then I literally value their services at whatever price they may set, right? So if I have I don't know, let's say a tree issue out in my front yard and the roots are pushing the sidewalk up and they're, just destroying my foundation. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to go about handling that. So I'm going to call a tree expert. And if the tree expert comes in and says, I need to do this, this, and this, and it's $500, I'm going to say, great, here's $500. I don't know what to do with that. I value your opinion, your expert opinion. I know you do this all day, every day. It's no different than that. So if somebody's offering a service and they want, if there's a perceived value on both ends, everybody wins.
Right.
So, to me, you charge what you think your service is worth and people will pay it because they see the value in what you're offering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Amen. Thank you. I totally agree. But I mean, I just think that, and I think I think people do try to word this the correct way. And I think people get to a point where they're like, okay, I can't provide a good treatment working for someone else, seeing 4 people an hour. So when I start, and I'll put this to other people, when they've started a cash practice, they go, okay, now I can provide a better treatment for my patients. So all cash practices provide better treatments. And I think that marginalizes a little bit of some of the PTs in network, because there are some great PTs in there that do have time. And I think that a big thing that I see is it's not, we can't make blanket statements. And I think that when we're in a cash practice, we have unlimited time to give people what they need. And we're almost really forced to sell value rather than selling physical therapy for a $25 or $50 copay. Do you see this too?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, this is getting to the point where we're beating a dead horse, but the profession, knows And I hear it time and time again, but the public doesn't know what we do.
Right.
The public doesn't know what physical therapy is. The public doesn't know what we offer. Well, all right, that's on us. That's our fault, man. And I mean, you got to get out there and you've got to educate. You've got to show people what physical therapy can be. And it's unfortunate. People are going to have good experiences and bad experiences with physical therapy. You know, they're going to, the good news is we're getting to a point now of health consumerism, right? And healthcare consumerism, where people are finally doing their research. They are looking into, you know, the latest and greatest and the best possible treatments and the best possible options, and, you know, ways to avoid surgery, ways to avoid opioids, all that stuff. So, you know, people are starting to come around to the fact that physical therapy exists and what it does and what the benefits are, but it's on us to really show the value, you know. And like you said, the blanket statements just probably don't fit to everybody, you know, but for the most part, you've just got to be the best possible physical therapist that you can be and bring the most value to people's lives, you know. And at the end of the day, you'll probably be all right. You'll end up okay.
So what are you doing, or how are you getting this message out to the public? Like that physical therapy is more than just like hot packs, leg lifts, and ultrasound, and that, you know, like you've got a special thing that you can do to help them that they may not be getting somewhere else.
Yeah. So for me, this started again about probably 2 years ago or so. I started PTEducator.com, which the whole premise of it was just to literally increase the public's healthcare literacy. It wasn't specifically physical therapy related. You know, I wrote a blog a day every weekday for a full year just to see if I could do it, just to push myself a little bit and get information out there, correct information out there to the public. And it would be about something I learned that day, or an interaction I had, or, you know, a song that came on the radio that made me think of something, or, you know, a sporting event that happened, just something that came up that day. And like, you know, one day it would be turf toe. I saw a football player had turf toe injury. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about turf toe. I haven't seen that in a while. Well, here's what turf toe is, and here's how physical therapy can treat it. If you feel like you may be dealing with that, give me a call, you know, or whatever. Or I can refer you to somebody locally who may be able to help you. You know, and that went on for about a year, and I've kind of slowed back on that just a little bit the last 6 months, just because of my dissertation. But that's about to end, so I'm about to have a little more free time on my hands. So hopefully I can get back into that again. But yeah, the blog was just basically trying to educate people to health situations that I came across in the world of physical therapy and how I tried to help them. So yeah, that was my initial mission. Now recently, I've started teaching adjunct with Baylor University's new DPT program here a little bit, and you know, I think not only educating students, physical therapy students, but, you know, a lot of the people that ask me about, you know, teaching and what I want to do with the educational doctorate, that kind of allows me to, I don't want to say stake my claim, but I mean, it literally gives me a little bit more authority and expertise in saying, yeah, I'm a professor teaching the next wave of PT students. You know, so people kind of take me a little bit more seriously when I say that, oh yeah, I'm a physical therapy professor as well. You know, right away it's like, oh, well then he must know what he's talking about, you know? So I think locally here in the community, the good news is with Waco, everybody knows Baylor. You know, it's the heart of Waco. So, you know, it lends a little bit of pretty decent credibility for my sake as well.
That's great. What are you teaching over there?
I'm just teaching adjunct about one course per semester. I help Dr. Bachman teach the aging adult course, and Dr. Unverzat, I help teach his advanced movement analysis course.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. You letting people know that cash practice exists and it's real.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And actually the cool thing is when I go up for lab immersions, they hold them up in Dallas. A lot of the students come up to me and ask me about it, which is really cool to see that students already know that cash pay exists and that there is a shift coming, and we're going to have to do something to change it up because the current model is not working.
Right. No, I'm waiting for the current model to really crash, but I still see so many people who are holding onto their contracts and they're just struggling because they don't pay. And, you know, it's even with hiring people, it's like our salaries are tied to what we can generate in reimbursement, and that's getting lower and lower. And of course you can't pay someone good money out of school, you know, because you can't pay them more in 30 years.
No, the bubble's going to burst. And I, you know, again, I'm just very fortunate and very blessed to have several irons in the fire currently that if physical therapy were to fall off the face of the earth as a profession, I think I'd still be all right at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So what's next for you, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing that I've been working on, kind of on the side, has been my book. I'm working on a book called "Breaking the Time Code:
Hmm.
Multiple Streams of Income for Healthcare Providers," because I'm pretty ticked off about the current student loan situation. Looking back on my journey and the way that I went about it, I did it all wrong. I would have gone to community college for 2 years and a state school for 2 years, then probably a state graduate school for 2 or 3 years. Had I to do it all over again and just try to keep it as cheap as possible. But I just kept thirsting for knowledge and thinking that education was the right path and the right thing to do, and I kept getting degree after degree after degree, and now I've got to pay for those degrees, right?
Hmm.
So I feel like we should, as healthcare providers, we need to look outside of our silo of whatever we're practicing. And there are so many different avenues of income and different streams of revenue that, we need to aggressively attack our student loans as opposed to just sitting back and paying them off for 30 years. So that book should be out early 2019. I'm pretty excited about that. I've been working with Brandon Pone and Stephanie Wyrock on the Healthcare Education Transformation podcast, just trying to bring awareness to how, we feel that healthcare education's broken system as well. And
Hmm.
we're trying to fix that by getting as many of the experts on to talk about the issues in healthcare education and how we can try to fix that. So that's going to be, I think, our next conquest, is trying to make education better from the inside out.
Right. Wow, that's awesome. Where do you think the disconnect is between school, like tuition and salaries? Like,
Yeah.
where's the?
Well, here's the major problem we're finding. One, schools can pretty much charge, whatever they want, because at the end of the day, there's not a shortage of people trying to fill seats.
Hmm.
So it's a supply and demand issue, right? If you have 100 seats in a DPT program and you have 800 applicants, well, you'll be able to fill them at whatever price you want, right? Now, there is a caveat. The DPT programs don't necessarily get all that money that comes in from the program. It goes to the school, and then the school obviously disperses it how they see fit. But if the price keeps creeping up and up and up because they can, and they're just trying to find that limit to where finally people say, no, we're not going to apply to that school anymore because it's too expensive. There's no incentive for them to stop charging as much as they are, if not more, year after year,
Right.
because people keep paying it and people keep trying to get into PT schools and people keep filling the seats. So, that's the first problem. And then the second problem is really, well, okay, now you've got all these PT schools and they're just adding more and more and more every year. And again, the answer isn't to throw more PT schools out there. Is it a moneymaker and a generator of money for the schools? Yeah, probably. But eventually we're going to saturate the market. We're going to, flood the market with too many PTs. And then there's going to be a real struggle to find jobs for these people, let alone good salaries.
Hmm.
So, we've got to be real careful in the future moving forward to, what we're doing in healthcare education, particularly in DPT programs. So
Yeah.
that's,
I see it, like, it's interesting you say that because I still get job offers and recruiters contacting me to get me a job. And I've never been on the job hunt. I've had a clinic since you know, got out of school, and it's hard for me to find people to hire. So there's really, like, right now there's a need for more PTs. And we all know that there's, baby boomers are aging. There's going to be more PTs. And yet, like, salary, like, people can't, like, people can pay back their loans, but they're struggling to figure out, how am I going to do that? If I want to do orthopedics and I get out and I can make $65,000 a year, I have to go to home health to make anywhere close to 80, I mean, so, like, my end, like, I see what you're saying. Like, I hadn't thought about that. And then my end, I'm like, well, you know, we need more PTs, but no one can pay it back unless, what they really need to be thinking is, like, how do I have, like, multiple streams of income? Because I want to treat patients, but I need to, like, pay back my loans and do it in a way that's, like, intelligent and not just, stalling you out.
right.
Right.
And that's a very important point, because you can still center everything that you love and your passion, if you keep that as the main umbrella and as like the the driving force behind everything you do, you can work at an outpatient orthopedic clinic at 65 if that makes you happy and you really enjoy it. And then if you aren't able to pay your loans back at that rate, well, then you can do, weekend PRN rates at an outpatient facility. You can, create a course around orthopedics or, whatever you really love. You can treat, or not treat, but you can educate people on weekends and do weekend classes for, if you're an ankle specialist, you can work on ankle stability and do camps on injury prevention. Again, we just need to be thinking outside the box and thinking of different ways that we can use our knowledge to help more people and create a greater reach.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be the 9 to 5 going to collect your paycheck every week. Like that's
Right.
what burns people out,
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like if you're in this business or field and that's all you want to do, collect a paycheck, it's like, I'm like, good luck to you. But if you really want something more, there's opportunity out there for the taking. You just actually have to go get it rather than wait for it to come to you.
For sure.
So, Scott, if someone has more questions for you or wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you online? Like, where are you on social media? Where do your blog posts, like your websites and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do is just go to pteducator.com. That's got all my social media links, emails, blog, everything is there. My mobile practice is linked up to that as well. I'm readily available for questions or if people just want to chat. I'm a pretty easily accessible guy, especially since I'm driving around all day. If I've got a 30 or 40-minute commute between patients or something like that, I'd be glad to take a call here or there, or, just chat with people. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I love chatting about people who are passionate about what they love and how to help more people in the world of physical therapy. So it's a great profession. I really am blessed to have been involved with it. I just think we need to light a fire under a little bit more of the clinicians and really get them going and really get them doing more than just that, collecting that paycheck like you were talking about, Aaron.
Right. That's exactly right. Now, is there anything else you want to add or some other piece of wisdom or advice from your experience that you'd like to share?
Just, get out there and do it. Give it a try. Like, if you want to keep it a side hustle, try it. But again, there's very little risk to starting your own little side hustle, cash pay business and, seeing how it goes and learning as you go. Cause that's literally what I did. I just learned as I went for, last 2.5 years or so, 3 years. I've been learning as I go. And it's, surround yourself with people who have done it and mentors who know what the ins and outs are and the ups and downs. Talk to them, learn from them. Most of them will be readily available and willing to talk to you. Just do it. Give it a try. Like there's no shame in doing a side hustle and keeping it a side hustle. Like it works. I'm living proof. It can be done.
That's really awesome. That's awesome. That's a great message and very important. So thank you very much. Thank you guys for being here. This has been the CashPT Lunch Hour with Aaron and Scott, and we'll see you guys on the next show. Have a great day.
Thanks, Aaron.